Welcome to another episode of Kai-Zen Consciousness. Today is the second time we are with Dr. Jason Barker, and this is his practice that we're in. And today we're going to be talking about three things. They are
mindset, nutrition, and exercise.
Welcome. Ehnes here. This is Kai-Zen Consciousness, where you can learn to master your life from the inside out. We'll be going down this list, and hopefully you will see how Kaizen Consciousness principles and those of
Stagecoach Family Chiropractic
overlap, and hopefully you'll have some wonderful information to walk away with. All right, so the first thing we want to look at is the mindset. And in Kaizen Consciousness, I teach quite a bit of positive mindset. I think it really overlaps how a positive mindset leads to all sorts of benefits that are going to help you spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So take it away with your positive mindset contribution.
That's key. You have to have this positive, overcoming champion mindset in order to win your day. A lot of times I like to call it a winning mindset, because there's so much depression and worry out there, and so much negativity in the world, that we have to have our the first place we need to start is right here between our ears. So what I usually tell when somebody comes into my clinic here and they just have a lot of stuff going on, they're just negative. Even though they don't tell you they're negative, they just seem that way, and you can feel that energy from them. First of all, I help to empower them, and at first they have to understand this. I call it practicing mindfulness. It's basically like knowing where they're at and accepting and being aware and recognize where they are currently. This way they know exactly where they need to go from that point on. Because a lot of us, if we don't really take a step back and look at and being mindful of where we're at, we forget of where we've been before, where we are, and where we're going. So first of all, it's accepting that there's a lot of negativity in your life, and we have to change that. We have to make the person has to decide in their mind they have to change and become this better human being inside of their mind and also in their heart. So what I do is I call this a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Right. So most people are in that fixed mindset, right?
Absolutely.
If you think about it. So an example of somebody in a fixed mindset is they feel like if they failed at something, they're a failure, and they don't want to try it again. Or they say they accept with their intelligence and with their mindset, they accept where they're at, and it's not going to change, or nothing's going to change. I just got diagnosed with cancer, and nothing's going to change, nothing's going to get better. That's a fixed mindset. But then teaching a growth mindset is using your talents, your intelligence, and your abilities to actually have amazing effort, and you can actually move yourself forward from where you're at. And you look at failure as an opportunity to do something better and do it better the next time, because you've already done the mistakes, but then when you redo it again, you're a lot better off than where you were.
Well, I remember when I first came to you, you took us into a room, you showed us basically that. You said, here's my story, here's why I do it, and in order to change, you show quite often, even with your dinners that you host, success stories. People who hopefully are sort of guides and role models, right, to allow somebody who walks in to your clinic to say, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. And people are in different walks of life, but they're also in different mindset positions. And I don't think it's 1, 2, or 3 settings on that. I think there are lots and lots and lots of, tiny variable settings on this. For me, I teach leverage. That you have to be able to believe that in order to have that growth mindset that you're talking about, to get to that next step, you need some leverage. And for some people, that is a very dark bottom pit. We talked about this last time, and you got to kind of look down there and you go, oh, not for me, right? So exactly. For some people it is. It's, they have to maybe be diagnosed, and other people, they just want to constantly change and better themselves. They don't need to fall down so hard, but what is that leverage ultimately that's going to get you to change? Because you can live a better life. Mm-hmm. And I would agree with you, Ben. I remember I really truly appreciate what you did with that first, and I said in the last video, that's where I kind of tested you. I wanted to see what your mettle was, what are you made of, and what are you going to teach. I thought here was always about health and well-being and truly full alignment of all that, spirit, emotions, and the physical. So
Absolutely. It's comprehensive. You know, that's what health is. Health is never just one thing or one piece in the puzzle. You have to really put all those puzzle pieces together in order to have this complete mindset of wellness. And that's really a key mindset to have is you have to be in this mindset of wellness, not so much in this mindset of, like, you know, sickness and disease, right? Because, you know, most of us are thinking that way. You know, if we have a disease, or if we have a health condition that we've dealt with chronically for years, then our mindset goes right back to thinking that's what we're going to have. You know, I'm just going to take drugs for the rest of my life, or whatever your doctor told you, things like that. But when you have this amazing growth mindset and overcoming mindset, then that changes your whole perspective on that situation, or your situation to begin with. So I firmly believe when you just change that limiting belief, because that's what it is. It's a limiting belief.
Absolutely.
And you just turn it, and it's basically your self-talk. It's what you're telling yourself every single second, every single day. Of course, we always have bad thoughts in our minds all the time, right? You and I have those things too. But the difference between what you would do versus what we would do is we would turn that into an empowering belief.
Right.
For example, if it's like you know, I'm having trouble losing, I'm having trouble losing 10 pounds, or I can't lose 10 pounds because I can't exercise. When you keep telling yourself I can't, guess what you're going to get? I can't.
I can't.
Right?
You got that right.
So instead of saying I can't do this, say I will, I must, or I can do this, right? Because when you change that negative self-talk to a positive self-talk, the more you keep telling yourself that, the more decisions you're going to make towards making that happen.
So I actually have 2 videos on self-talk, and that's exactly what it is. Because, I mean, if you pay attention to what your voice says, you know, most people, I think, berate themselves pretty heavily throughout the day. You know, you do something, you're late, and you just call yourself names, you know what I mean? So I'll leave a link to those 2 videos, because I think you'll get a better sense of what self-talk is, not only from what we're saying here, but if you look at those, because there's more in depth. But yes, that's the leverage. The leverage is that positive self-talk makes it really easy to kind of, you know, say, oh, I'm going to try something new, and it's not so limiting. That's what positive self-talk at the end of the day creates.
Very good. So, Kai, I'd like to add to that too. You know, I always say, you know, we have to connect to this a big, deeper why, and that your why will help inspire us to make those changes and get that mass leverage that you were talking about too. You know, I feel like, you know, once you have that positive mindset, and it's like inside of you, and it's in your heart and your mindset together, and then you start to develop that big why of why you really want to do it and why you're passionate about doing it. And it's going to take you so much further and get through all those layers and get through all the negativity into the positivity.
I mean, I think that's what we're here for. You know, one of the things that I had to answer for myself is, why am I here? You know, not just why am I here today, but in general, why am I here, in the sense of, am I allowed to live a really decent life? Is that okay? And we don't really hear a lot about that in life. We hear, you know, movies, Netflix videos. There's a whole lot of you barely made it kind of stories, you know, and you had to go through all these trials and tribulations. And while, you know, I'm sure that's true to some degree for everyone, there is a way to live a good life. And I think that well-lived life, that's really that mindful life, you know. And a great author in Zen, you know, is a guy named Thich Nhat Hanh. And one of his books, he has many, but he's a monk, a Vietnamese monk. And one of his books is called The Miracle of Mindfulness. And it's really about washing dishes. And when you wash them by hand, how you have to slow down and just pay attention to this whole process. So a lot of Zen philosophy and Zen beliefs is about that mindfulness. I think we've had numerous moments in both of our lives, which is why we connect so easily, of being able to live in that zone, in that flow, that free human experience on this planet. And that's what we're trying to share here.
And another good practice about that too is you know, being practicing mindfulness and being like knowing where you're at and just like slowing down, paying attention to the details, and just really paying close attention to what really is going on in your life in general. I always say, like, just stop where you're at and find a quiet space and just start taking some nice deep breaths very slowly. And then start, you know, just getting into your mind, like, you know, some good positive visualizations of whatever you want to make happen. And right then, those moments right there will help change your state of mind just right away, and you become more mindful of where you're at and where you can go.
Okay. First, I want to make sure we introduce our partner back here. This is Fred, and Fred is hanging here, just enjoying life. But anyway, on a more
We're trying to keep him nice and straight as well, you know, so kind of hard to sometimes. We use him a lot.
Oh boy. On a more serious note, or maybe not. So, do you think that people can honestly change negative habits?
You know, absolutely, because you know, if you believe that you can change a negative habit into a positive habit, then yes, you can do it. But if you're also the person that's like, you make the excuses, or like you say that nothing's going to change with this, or you just stay negative and your energy stays negative, then guess what? It's going to stay the way it is, and nothing's going to change. You're going to plateau. You're not going to move forward. I mean, the positivity in your life will be hard to set back in, and it's hard to get that mass leverage that they were talking about as well. But I feel like once you gain that mass leverage, it really introduces this concept in your brain called neuroplasticity, where it actually rewires your brain pathways. So when you're a negative person that's got a negative belief, and when you turn it over to a positive and empowering belief, and you can use any example in this, like we can use like example of dance or something like that, like almost like if it's your first time learning how to do a waltz or something like that. Usually the waltz is one of the easiest ones to learn because it's the slowest one to learn. But at first you're like, well, let me just learn this first and you see where I can go from there. And then you learn it, and then you're like, you know what? Now that I've done this, I can actually go a little bit further and go after the salsa dancing now.
All right.
Because I mean that's a little bit of step up. I'm like, you know, I'm empowered. I can actually do this. I can actually dance a little bit now. So now I'm going to go up to the salsa and learn that one right there. So that's more of an empowering belief, and it gives you that more mass leverage, and also rewires those brain pathways so you can be more connected to a higher, you know, state of mind and higher state of whatever you're going to do.
I don't know if we can teach Fred to dance, though. All right, so this was an episode on Kai-Zen Consciousness with Dr. Jason Barker. Today we talked about mindset, positive mindset, growth mindset. I hope you all have some wonderful tools that you can walk away with here, because this works. I mean, it really, truly does work. He has success stories walking in and out of this office every day. I personally have gained a higher level of life and wellness by being in his care, so I want to thank you for that. Dr. Barker,
Thank you, sir. Yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you
for watching another episode of Kaizen Consciousness, where the possibilities are
endless.
Yeah. Power zone.
Power zone.